Hello, welcome to August 4th, 2023. My name is Kurt, and this is my daily Good Life meditation exercise. This is something that I do each and every morning, just a little bit after waking up. It's now 4:42 a.m. I do this in order to remember my life objectives and principles, those which are outlined in my book, Going Alone. I also use this time to think about the last 24 hours, including last night, to see how I did with the challenges and opportunities that I met. Did I make the day a good day? Did I capitalize on opportunity, and did I respond and react to challenge as well? I also use this time to think about the coming day, to forecast the next 24 hours and ready myself as best I can. But before we get started, a poem or two. I say two. First, we'll read yesterday's poem once through, the one we studied, and then we'll study a new poem for today. So yesterday's poem was titled On Visiting the Tomb of Burns, Robert Burns, that is. This is Keats's account of visiting in Scotland, I believe it is in Scotland, the tomb of the author Robert Burns. The town, the churchyard, and the setting sun, the clouds, the trees, the rounded hills, all seem, though beautiful, cold, strange, as in a dream I dreamed long ago. Now new begun, the short-lived pally summer is but one, from winter's ague for 1 hour's gleam, through sapphire warm, their stars do never beam. Though sapphire warm, sorry. No, it is through. I got it right the first time. Through sapphire warm, their stars do never beam. Sometimes Keats' poem does that to me. It causes me to stumble in the best way. I love having my mind twisted in that way. All is cold beauty, pain is never done. For who has mind to relish, Minos-wise, the real beauty, free from that dead hue, fickly imagination and sick pride can wane upon it. Burns, with honor due, I have oft honored thee. Great shadow, hide thy face, I sin against thy native skies. I just picture him, Keats, writing this, at the side of the tomb, right, on a clear, summery day, in spite of the Scottish winter that's coming to an end, and expressing the emotions that he feels. I felt something similar to that when I visited the Author's Ridge in Concord, Massachusetts, and visited the graves of Thoreau and Emerson and Hawthorne. That I actually did that. Sat there in the evening. It's very similar. My emotions were similar to this. Okay, today's poem is called Old Meg. She was a gypsy, and there are 7 items of vocabulary that I needed to look up. The first is Old Meg. Who's Old Meg? So it turns out that Old Meg is referencing a character, Meg Merrilies, from Sir Walter Scott's novel Guy Manning, and she was a gypsy. And this poem is Keats' ode to that gypsy woman. Another word was swart, which I had to look up. Even though I recently looked it up, I couldn't remember. It's a tough thing about getting old. It means dark or black in color. And then pods o' broom is the next one. It's a phrase, pods o' broom. It turns out that those are the seed pods of the broom plant. And I had to ask ChatGPT what it meant, and ChatGPT told me something stunning. He basically said, Kurt, I'm surprised you, an American, are using this. It's like, how did you know I was American? Interesting. The next one is larchen tree, which is larchen trees, basically, which is the larch tree. It's a deciduous conifer, which actually loses its pine needles, being deciduous. The next one is woodbine, which is the honeysuckle vine. Yew is a tree used for making longbows, And then there was the reference to a person, to Margaret Queen. She was the Queen of Scotland, died in 1541. Let's read. Old Meg, she was the gypsy. Old Meg, as so often keeps the title and then the first line of the saying. Old Meg, she was a gypsy and lived upon the moors. Her bed, it was the brown heath turf, and her house was out of doors. Her apples were swart blackberries, her currants pods o' bloom, room. Her wine was dew of the wild white rose, her book a churchyard tomb. Her brothers were the craggy hills, her sisters larchen trees. Alone with her great family, she lived as she did please. No breakfast had she many a morn, no dinner many a noon. Instead of supper, she would stare full hard against the moon. But every morn of woodbine fresh, she made her garlanding, and every night the dark glen yew she wove and she would sing. And with her fingers old and brown, she plaited mats o' rushes, and gave them to the cottagers she met among the bushes. Old Meg was brave as Margaret Queen, and tall as Amazon. An old red blanket cloak she wore, a chip hat she had on. God rest her aged bones somewhere, she died full long ago. That last bit. All right. Yesterday and last night. Another fine night of sleep. Becoming totally the norm. I'll stop going on and on about it. Yesterday was a very consequential day. At 8:05 p.m. I hovered my mouse cursor on my computer over the send button to the email to the project stakeholders announcing the completion of the last wave of our big project, which concludes the project, the project deployment stage. Now we enter the project closure phase. Piece of cake from here. All the hard work is done. But more than that, I think the last big project of my career is done. And one of the biggest I've ever done. And it was successful. I can go out. One of the things I came back from Japan to do was to succeed. I didn't feel very successful in Japan. And I didn't feel like I didn't feel challenged, or I felt like I could do more out of my career. And I came to America seeking out that challenge, and boy did I get it in spades. And this project completion yesterday, there's no going back now. It's done. Done. And all the things that I was hired to do are done. And all the things I did in Ventura are done. All the things that I did at this place before I went to Ventura, all those things are all done. All the things I set out to do in America, career-wise, are done. My career is, in effect, done. I still have 17 months left. It's a long time. But I'd have no big projects on the horizon for me. They may give me one yet, but even if they do, it's that'll be all right. I don't think so, though. I think I'm going to be put more into a maintenance mode at this point to see what I've done come through to completion and transition. Enough details about work. I just can't get over that we did it. And that for the most part, I have to wrap my mind around it now. You know, I'm heading into a phase of life very different than anything I've ever done before, where I'll wake up in the morning and the agenda will be my own. What the hell do I want to do today? I know that's a increasingly rare thing anymore. This whole concept of retirement is, I think we're going to see that come back. I think it come back in spade. I think people are more and more going to be able to enjoy their lives from an earlier age. Things are going to get better. But I know some are struggling right now, and I'm very lucky to be in a position to be able to do this. But so I will dwell on it, and I will talk about it, because if anything, by way of cautionary tale, for the younger to make sure that they plan from a young age, so when they reach my age, they can enjoy this season. Enough of that. This is big for me. Now it's really resting on my shoulders now, or lifting from my shoulders the burden of other men's work. What do I want to do now? Interesting. I think I know. Basically, it boils down to walking and thinking. Philosophy, literature, poetry, vocabulary, and sharing of the such. And what I do right now, just keep on doing it. The breathing comes easier now. I really need to capture this in my words in my video. This is a transitory moment. I know this transitional moment will last for a couple of years, probably. If I'm lucky, it'll last that long, and then I'll enter into whatever becomes the next phase. Whatever I make of the next phase. Okay, I've said enough about that. Let's do the good life. My 7 objectives, the things I'm striving to live for and be, the man I want to be, are to be always ready to die, to make good and effective use of my time, to develop and maintain good and sound life principles, to cultivate good emotional reactions, to perform good actions, to recognize my true limits and my true opportunities, and to do just one thing at a time, and do that thing slowly and deliberately and very, very carefully, just as I'm doing right now. My 34 principles now, the tools that I use to achieve those 7 objectives are war, reason, homunculus, Anchorhold, home of good and evil, purpose, atomic principle, principle of nature, the pirate ride, maturity, the social principle, the principle of family, public speaking, temperance. Life will not go well. The horror show, that which must be borne, the Feast of Offal, distraction, agency, and the great indifference, the best seat in the house, the Restless Man, the Path of Wildness, the great life adventure, the risk of avoiding risk, sin and damnation, complete oblivion, the season of philosophy, script writing, the bullseye aim, the uphill climb, arena and utility, nothing is enough, and the principle of fun. All of these objectives and principles can be read about in my book, Going Alone, in the chapter titled, The Good Life. All right, now for today. What's today like? It's a Friday. It's a Friday on. It's going to be an interesting day. My project main deliverable is done. I'll do my status report. Effectively, my last status report before the closure. Well, I guess I'll continue to do status reports, but not quite the same. My last status report to the steering committee, that's for sure. That's what I meant. I'll write up a status report, have a status meeting, and begin tying up the loose ends and preparing for the closure meeting on the 15th. And then from there I'll ramp up phase 2, which is nothing like phase 1. And carry on. Let's see if I can keep this going this new sense of peace that comes of completing my work. I often repeat the words of Emerson, who once wrote, "Do your work, do your work." There's more to it that he wrote, but that's the key element there. It always, those words ring back to me over and over again. And then maybe I'm starting to understand why. He says, do your work and we will know you. But I think he also means do your work and you will find satisfaction, peace, and contentedness. There's truth to that. Maybe the key is not to avoid it, but to find the way to best weather the years of toil so that we can enjoy the satisfaction of completion when that day comes. I know that feeling now. Now, 2 more things I need to do before I close. I need to ask myself about my life story, and then ask myself if I'm ready to die. As for the life story, which I'm still working on how I'm going to do this, and it'll come. At this point in the story, the work phase is almost done. I'm wrapping it up. And now the retired phase comes. Life of, and years of freedom, hopefully years. Hopefully I don't die suddenly. Could happen. What a facile cheat that would be. But totally do it. Totally the thing. I remember when I first got hired. When I first got hired to this job, I was warned, whatever you do, don't retire. Because as soon as you retire, you die. I've since watched several people retire and not die. So I know that prophecy was moot. My story. That's where I am. I'll work more on that. That'll come with time. Am I ready to die? Are my affairs in order? Yes. Are my relationships sound? Yes. Is my life's work complete? Absolutely. I'm ready to die. I hope I don't die right now, but I'm ready. I like to envision that as without a backward glance, going out like Seneca or Socrates, forward into the night, into the oblivion. I think I'm ready. But I hope it's not today. Gulp. All right, and with that, I'm done. And my life is done, if not finished. And with that, I wish you all the best. Be safe, but not too safe. Take care.